Welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday, the first Tuesday of June on the Texas Football live stream. Welcome in, Aaron Hogan, Jeff Howe, Rod Babers on this Tuesday night, and lots to dive into. We've got a commitment, according to Jeff Howe, nationally, which leads into the June conversation of national recruits and visitors and recruiting weekends. We'll dive in there. We'll certainly take all of your questions. If you've got a question that's pressing on the top of your brain, we will dive into that for sure. You can lead the conversation here on this Tuesday live stream. Please do. Also get into a little bit of Texas softball. They have a very special guest joining us later on in the live stream tonight from Oklahoma City, where the Texas softball team will begin play for the national championship tomorrow night against Texas Tech. Their second straight trip to the championship series, their third in 4 years. So be sticking with us. We may talk to one of the star Longhorn players from Oklahoma City on the eve of the first game of that College World Series. We will talk about it as well. We got some baseball news trickling in as well, as far as the Longhorn baseball team, who are not playing any longer, unfortunately. The Longhorns are one of 9 SEC teams that did not get out of the first weekend. 4 did advance, but underperformed for sure, including the Longhorns this weekend against a very good UTSA team. So lots to dive into, certainly football. We've got recruiting rankings and opinions to get to, and yours as well. So again, your questions, make sure you drive the chat with questions that you want us to dive into. You can lead that way as we get it going on a Tuesday night. Jeff, Rod, how we doing?
Doing good. I know it's the off season, but shout out to Texas softball. They're still competing at a high level, but officially the off season now that Texas baseball is done. So I'm ready to start getting into some football conversation. I know we got the FPI to get into. I know we got, there's already like a lot of rankings that are coming out. If for Pro Football Focus is putting out a lot of good content. So the Longhorns have been a hot topic of conversation, no matter what college football platform you're looking at. Everybody's talking about how good Texas is supposed to be. So it's a really fun time of the year, I think.
It is. And obviously the football season can't get here fast enough. It'll be a month of June into July, and then SEC Media Days, fall camp, and all the way into the start of the season. And you mentioned rankings. I saw we got Greg McElroy from ESPN ranking the top defenses in college football. I think Longhorn fans will like where he has the Longhorns ranked as far as the best defense potentially in the country. We dive into that here coming up. Also, as you said, the PFF rankings, the FPI, the Football Percentage Index, which came out today, likes the Longhorns too, as far as that goes. We'll get into all of it. Matthew will show up the graphics, and again, a guest from softball could come in. Jeff, you have news of a national recruit commitment about 30 minutes ago. Is that right?
Yeah, Justice Fitzpatrick, the brother of Minka Fitzpatrick, the high-end corner out of the state of Florida, commits to Georgia, and it's not a surprise because we expected Georgia was going to be, whether Texas was number 2 or whoever else was going to be in it, we expected Georgia was going to be tough to beat because you look back at Minka's recruitment, Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart, specifically Kirby Smart, was a really big reason, maybe the biggest reason why Minka Fitzpatrick went to Alabama. It's hard to believe that recruitment went down about 10 years ago, but such is life. But yeah, Justice Fitzpatrick ends up committing to Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann in Georgia. Again, not a surprise, but there, Jerry and CJ and I talked about this on the recruiting breakdown today. Defensive back is one of those positions, kind of like offensive line, interior defensive line, and I think edge is another one. Texas has a lot of offers out. They've got a lot of guys that they're interested in where there's mutual interest. As you go through this month of June with official visits, some of these guys are going to have to start committing sooner or later, or you may not have a spot at Texas. I mean, I think the board is that close with in terms of separation with some guys. So Justice Fitzpatrick, look, they would have loved to have had him. He's a big-time prospect, but, they got Hayward Howard Jr. committed. Other guys, Samari Matthews out of the state of North Carolina is a guy that I like a lot. I think, we had a chance to chop it up with him a little bit after his unofficial visit in the spring. And just seems like a really, Rod, you know when some kids get it, right? Samari Matthews strikes me as one of those kids that gets it. So yeah, they're gonna have quite a few talented defensive backs that they're going to bring on campus. As a matter of fact, they're bringing in the first official visit weekend this weekend, Devon Benjamin out of California. I know it's a guy Dwayne Aquina really likes. They're going to bring him in this weekend. So Texas will still end up with a good DB class, but sooner or later, man, some of these guys are going to have to start pulling the trigger. Otherwise, you may be waiting, around August, September, thinking, oh, yeah, I'll have a spot at Texas. There may not be a spot for you.
Wow. Yeah. No, Bobby said even that he thought it was a little unusual that they had given out so many early offers. So this is definitely methodical. They're trying to kind of change up, I think, their approach just a little bit. Some early offers.
Yeah. All right, we asked for them so early and often. Let's get some of these questions. Rod, we have a question for you on the NASCAR package in there that Matthew just informed me. Rod, if Texas played tomorrow, who's your front in the NASCAR package in 2025?
That's a good question, Jedi Master Bevo, because I think it's going to be a bigger part of the defense. And I'll say this: you make it more NASCAR nickel than NASCAR dime this year. Dime is when you have 6 DBs, nickel's when you have 5 DBs on the field. And the reason I say this because last year you just had so many DBs I think you trusted. I mean, think about it. You had Jahdae Barron and Makuba went to the NFL. Taft was an All-American. You got Malik Muhammad coming back as one of the best corners in the country. He's been a multiple-year starter for you. You're at Gavin Holmes, who you trusted. Jalen Gilbo was another starter who you trusted among that group. I mean, you just had a lot of, I think, DBs that you could throw out there that you trusted after losing a lot of guys. I don't know if they have, 6 to 7. Hell, I forgot about Derek Williams because he got hurt, but he was in that group too. So I don't know if you have 7 DBs that you trust like that right now. So I think that the linebacker, and even Sark said this, that he was pleasantly surprised by the depth and talent at linebacker in the spring. And we were all talking about that. So just throwing it out there, you may get more NASCAR nickel than you got last season. But my front would be. You got to throw, obviously, Colin Simmons is in there and Anthony Hill. Those are your 2, best pass rushers, and that's what that package is all about. Trey Moore is going to be in that package as one of your edges. The question is, who's going to be your D tackle? It could be Alex January. I would find some way to see if Justice Terry, just like Colin Simmons did last year as a freshman, could contribute in that package. Could he be the D tackle in the package? I know he's playing in now. But in terms of where his body's going to go, but you can move him inside there. Another guy that could do it is maybe Ethan Burke could do it. I mean, Ethan Burke's a big guy. You can maybe you want to bump Ethan Burke inside. He could be what Barron who served that Barron Sorrell role, right? Because Barron Sorrell was fantastic last year. He had damn near 20% pass rush rate when you moved him around 4-eye to the 3 technique. I mean, he was great in those situations. Is that Ethan Burke? Is that a Colton Vosick? I don't know if Vosick has that kind of body, but in that situation, just trying to get a matchup advantage, right? And Barron Sorrell on a less athletic interior offensive lineman, that was a matchup advantage. Colton Vosick would be that. So would Ethan Burke. So you can bump either one of those guys in. So just on the front, where I'm at, Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Trey Moore. Like I said, I think your D tackle, who's important, who that's going to be, like your true D tackle last year, it was Vernon Broughton. I thought it would be Alfred Collins. It was actually Vernon Broughton who they chose their D tackle. So who's your best pass rushing D tackle right now? Could it be Murad Watson? Could it be Alex January? Jeff? That I don't know. I'll admit that I'm not sure about, Jedi Master Bevo. Who's your best pass rushing D tackle? Last year I was wrong. I thought it'd be Alfred Collins. Yeah. Turns out the coaches thought it was Vernon Broughton most of the time in that pack.
My reasonably educated guess at this point would be Murad Watson, but he wasn't there in the spring. So whoever it is, whether it's one of the freshmen, they're going to have a learning curve. I'm with you though, Rod. You brought up a name, and look, we all talk about Justice Terry. Justice Terry, if he hits the ceiling, he's a 3-and-done player. So he may outgrow, no pun intended, he may outgrow the NASCAR package pretty quick and just be a rotational guy that they just need to get on the field.
Yeah.
Sub package, just get him out there. The NASCAR package to me, it's more, again, no pun intended, it's more of a vehicle, if you will, I think, to get Lance Jackson some snaps, because I just think he's so big, he's so athletic, and even if the speed of the game, Rod, isn't to where he can be a 3-4 down player yet, that may be the way. Like, hey, we got to get his feet wet, we got to get him acclimated. And in that NASCAR package, you're probably 8 to 12 snaps a game. I think that would be good for him. He is you look at his size, you look at his athleticism, go back to the fact that he was a 2-sport guy in high school, was a baseball player. I just think he's such a unique athlete. Justice Terry's a hell of a football player who happens to be like an athletic freak. I think Lance Jackson is more of, he's an athlete who just now is going to start devoting all of his time, energy, and effort into football. So as good as Justice Terry is, I think Justice Terry's floor is higher right now in terms of him being ready earlier. Lance Jackson might have a higher ceiling than Justice Terry.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
Well,
but that's what guys I know that'll be in that package up front is, I mean, so I think there's still room for who's that other linebacker if they want to throw out the nickel package in that. But if they want to go with the dime, I mean, all you really need if you want with the dime, 6 DBs, by the way, all you need is 5 guys in the front, and that's pretty easy for you to figure that out. Who that other linebacker going to be if you go with the NASCAR nickel? That's interesting. Could it be a Brad Spence? Could they put Trey Moore there and get more guys on the D line? It all depends on, I think, how much depth they have.
Let me ask you about a couple guys just to have the conversation, because you guys mentioned Murad Watson, the Syracuse transfer. What did we hear early on Travis Shaw, the North Carolina transfer? He kind of has that Alfred Collins body, right? I mean, the big size. Maybe that's what they wanted, an anchor. And then there's also the Hero Canoe from Ohio State, who it kind of profiles more like an Alfred Collins kind of body. I don't know, and I haven't heard much about how their winter and how their spring practices went.
Travis Shaw, I think, is going to be this year's Jermaine Lole from the standpoint of what can his body physically give you. There's no question he's talented. He's good enough to play a role. He's good enough to play a prominent role. But he came to Texas with that knee. They really, really, really protected him, tried to get him right with that knee, limited his reps in the spring. So that to me is the deal with Travis Shaw, right? It's not a question of talent. It's just, is his body going to allow him to be a player? But I think the good thing is, and I think it's good for him coming to Texas, they're not going to ask him to be a 60 snap per game guy. He may be a 20 snap per game guy in a rotation. So I think for Travis Shaw, this may be the way, kind of like it ended up being with Jermaine Lole because of his health. Maybe this is just the way you get the best out of him, get the most out of him.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That D tackle rotation is going to be really interesting because, like I said, I'm not sure. Like right now, my top guys would be Murad Watson, Cole Brevard, and Alex January. Feel like the top 3. But I know they want a rotation of 4 guys, hell, maybe even more than that. I know they need 4 guys they can trust. To me, those 3, I believe, are going to be three that end up in that group. I could be wrong because you still got, like you said, it could be Travis Shaw, it could be, and it could expand the rotation of guys, and maybe it's more than 4 that get the primary amount of snaps in that group. But I like those 3 right now. But like I said, we hadn't played a game yet in the Burn Orange. So
and as Jeff said, I don't know that they know just now who's going to be those guys, right? They got to get on, the guys who are just getting here. They need to get on campus, and they need to have a good summer, and then obviously fall camp. We'll learn more about that as we go. The guys they had from the winter through the spring, they know a little bit more about as we move forward. That is the present conversation.
I do think, though, and Rod, I don't know how you feel about this, but the thing that I appreciated about Barron Sorrell was you didn't have to worry about him. Like, it says a lot, a line of scrimmage player in the SEC, when you can put him out there for an SEC regular season, an SEC title game, and a playoff. And it's like, yeah, I just trust him to get the job done. He's not going to have any egregious errors. He's going to make some plays. He's going to hold down his position. Yeah. I think moving to the interior, I think Cole Brevard has a really good chance to be that guy for Texas. And it's really nice if you can have that guy be one of your interior D linemen, where you just kind of plug him in and be like, we don't have to worry. While he's out there, you don't have to worry. You may not get the splash plays with Cole Brevard, but you're not going to be like, hey, why was Cole Brevard? Why'd they roll him, 8 yards off the ball and get a 20-yard run in his gap? I don't think that kind of stuff's going to happen. I think he could be – I'll borrow a term from you, Rod, that you used a few years ago, that Rock of Gibraltar. I think he could be that kind of that glue guy that holds it together for that interior D-line rotation.
Every great defense at Texas has that guy, right? So who's going to be that guy we know the defense is going to be great, but who's going to end up being that Rock of Gibraltar in the center for Texas? But yeah, Barron Sorrell, 88 days, by the way, I believe, isn't it? Since we talk about Barron Sorrell, 88 days. 88 days. So shout out to 88, man. He had a hell of a career arc. I mean, he just got better every year. I mean, he's one of those players that real Longhorn fans learn to appreciate. Barron Sorrell.
Well, and then and this, Rod, in the NFL, when the Packers drafted him in the 4th round in Lambeau Field, he was there, paid his own way to be there. And the adjectives that the general manager, the president gave, tough, reliable, dependable, right? That's what Barron Sorrell's was. And that's exactly what Jeff and you guys are saying. He was tough, he was reliable, got better every year. You didn't have to worry about him. did his role, did his job for sure. And that's what they're looking for right now out of that rotation. You're going to get splash players. With that in mind, let me just mention, while we're on the defensive topic, Greg McElroy of ESPN and does this podcast, Always College Football. He ranked the top 10 defenses in college football, in his opinion, for 2025. And he has the Longhorns as the number one defense in the country. He cites obviously Anthony Hill and, Colin Simmons, Trey Moore as returning players, Cole Brevard and Travis Shaw as transfers in, plus the other defensive tackles. But the McElroy comment, if you look at what they have, honestly, off the charts from a star power standpoint, I don't think there's a team in the country that has a higher ceiling than Texas with the amount of guys that can take over a game. Hill is a complete superstar. I think he's the best linebacker in the country. Simmons is ridiculous. Not sure there's a more feared pass rusher in the SEC. If you're wondering, number 2 is Ohio State, the Longhorns' first opponent in 88 days. Penn State 3 with their new defensive coordinator coming in from Ohio State. Georgia and Notre Dame, the top 5 defenses in the country. Oklahoma is at number 7. So that's where Greg McElroy has it. And I think that's going to be common as we get the Phil Steele's College Football Magazine and all these, athlons that come out. It's going to be hard to not look at that talent on the Texas side. We've been talking about it for months, but when the Nationals come in and kind of do a deep dive, it's hard not to see the 3 levels and the talent. And if they get defensive tackle and that rotation solidified, as you guys just talked about, there's really not a hole in the defense at every level. And that's, with the continuity on the defensive side, Dwayne Akina joining that staff, the experience they have, that this has to be one of the top 2 or 3 units in all of college football.
Not a Texas note, but I do want to brag on Rod, because Rod is the one who told us a few years ago that, when we were off the horn and some of us were going out to high school games and camps or whatever, I remember Rod saying Leonard Moore was probably the best defensive player in the area, at least that he had seen.
Yeah.
And you can have a deal right now. That's why I was a little surprised, because I just think a lot of Marcus Freeman and what Notre Dame does defensively. You could have the greater Austin area could produce Jim Thorpe Award winners in back-to-back years. I don't think it's that out of the question that Leonard Moore could go win the Jim Thorpe Award.
Oh, damn. That's deep, Jeff. I didn't think about that. He is that good. He is that good. Like he's I kept one. I found out later why, but I was wondering why Texas didn't recruit him enough. But I think he's a great player. There's no doubt about that. And it kind of goes to how the city of Austin, or that Austin area, Central Texas, is starting to produce more NFL players. They had their best NFL year, by the way. They produced, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, 6. Yep. It was 6 players from the Central Texas area that got drafted this past year. I mean, that's a ton of guys. But to your point about Texas being the best defense, remember we went back and tried to track how many times, recently Texas in the preseason going into a season had, All-Americans at every level of the defense. Right? I think we actually had to go back to when I played, right? way back when I played. Last time Texas had, multiple All-Americans, but at every level of the defense. They have that with Taft, with Anthony Hill, with Colin Simmons. They also, I'll give PK credit. This defense, every time they've had a major issue or a void in the defense or some type of liability in the defense, they do fix it the next season. They fix it. And the defense that's why the arc of the defense is, even Sark's offense hadn't done that. Sark's red zone issues still persist. They got third down issues. Sark's offense always has some issues here or there. It's just explosive as hell. And Sark is brilliant at creating and generating explosive plays, and they got great players. But the defense, first they couldn't stop the run or stop the pass, right? Or defend the pass. They figured out the rush defense. That was first. And then they figured out the pass defense. That was the last thing they figured out. And then they figured out the pass rush. And then they got the pass rush to ultimately lead to, negative plays and lead to splash plays. And so the defense is still evolving, but it's gotten better every year. Now, it's hard to get better than you were last year, but that's the prediction, guys, right now. The prediction by most, and we'll get into the FPI. FPI, even the algorithm and the analytics is predicting the same thing. And I think Greg McElroy may be predicting the same thing, that they're going to be even better than they were last year. And it's hard for me to fathom that, considering how good they were, but that's the possibility. But that would mean that everybody got better and that, nobody regressed. Hard to say that, but look at the prediction. The prediction is that they're going to have the best defense by the FPI. The Football Power Index predicts it too.
Think about how good Texas was last year defensively. And Rod, you played on a great defense, a couple great defenses. That the Will Muschamp defenses were great. And granted, I was born in 1983, so this is the time frame I'm talking about. In my lifetime, I might not have seen a better Texas defense than the one I saw last year. And then you consider special teams was abysmal. They had defensively, they had one of, if not the worst field positions in college football to work with on a continual basis. They were a great sudden change defense, but they had to be because the offense turned it over way too much. And you consider like what they lost in the draft, losing Sweat and Murphy, and they were better, even with all of that stuff going against them that would have really excused, Texas was great, but man, the offense turned over, put them in bad field position all the time, or they're constantly sudden change. No, they were still dominant. They were still. Can you imagine how good this defense will be if they have more scenarios this year where they can just play you straight up? Like it's just a normal, like, hey, punt the ball, let's go play defense at like the minus 30. That to me is the big thing right there. If they get any kind of help from special teams and a little more help from the offense, the ceiling it's as high as any defense in the country.
Yeah. I don't disagree. And it's hard to, as you guys said, they were so rock solid and kind of carried this team last year for stretches. Think about the Oklahoma game with the first quarter turnovers and only gave up 3 points with all those possessions and snaps. I know Oklahoma's offense was wretched, but still they allowed 3 points in a game that could have been, a different story if they don't stand up. But, it's funny the progression. And I think one of the things Greg McElroy is saying you guys are talking about is, that those defenses 2 years ago and this past year, those are some inherited guys that they got in the program and got developed, and the Baron Sorrells, the Jalen Fords, the Sweats, and now Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill were number one players in the state, number one players in the country at their position. The talent level, and you still have a Michael Taft back there to police it all and bring that culture and bring that leadership. Trey Moore is a senior who's played a lot of college football. There's a lot to like about that because if they can be as sound, Rod, as they were last year, but add even more, as you like to say, havoc wreaking and disruption with the pass rush and Brad Spence coming in from Arkansas to bring more pass rush and turnovers and forcing the game. That they on paper they look like, to me, one of those Georgia kind of defenses from a couple of years ago where they just wrecked shop. They just wrecked the shop, and you just good luck. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I totally agree. That's why I think it's important, to look at the pieces they have and some of the clues they've thrown out there in the spring, like with Trey Moore, cross-training at linebacker, Brad Spence, getting time on the edge. We know what Anthony Hill can do as a pass rusher. He's phenomenal. But the pieces like Jelani McDonald, I think there is another step for the defense. I think they want to get to the point where they have more chess pieces that they can move around the front to confuse really good quarterbacks that are going to be playing in the playoffs, right? Really good teams with the best quarterbacks in the country. So I think they want to get to the point where they can confuse those quarterbacks by throwing out basically misidentifiers, if you will. And quarterbacks will look at different players and they won't be able to necessarily identify what role they're playing on the defense and what their responsibility is, because they'll be guys that they've moved around who have multiplicity in their skill set. I think so I do think the defense could take another schematic step as a defense that we haven't seen. I've talked about the man coverage. I think more man coverage is going to be played too when they get the type of athletes that the guys they inherited, but the guys that they recruited and the skill sets that they coveted and the skill sets that I think are necessary to be able to play man-to-man press man. I think at one point is what they want to play.
In that vein, Rod, last year, and PK has talked about it, Johnny Nansen came in, Arizona played, I don't think, what was it, Nansen's last year there in 23. I think they're like 85% single high safety.
Oh yeah, a ton of it.
Safety. And PK coveted that because they felt like losing Sweat and Murphy. They were worried. The luxury the 23 defense had, they could be in a too high shell and stop the run because they were so damn good up front. Like you weren't, I remember the Houston game where Houston had a couple failed fourth and shorts, and somebody asked Dana Holgerson, "Why didn't you just sneak Donovan Smith?" He said, "Texas has the 2 best tackles in the country. I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to get my quarterback hurt trying to run him into 2 NFL tackles." He's like, "That's stupid." So everybody Texas knew Texas played knew they had the 2 best tackles in the country. Last year, the thing they weren't counting on, they were going to play, and they did. They played more one high, but they still, because Collins and Broughton set the tone and were so good, they could still stop the run and be in a too high shell. And at that point, like if you're an offense, like what do? You can't run the football, but yet you can't get them out of the too high shell, so you can't take shots. Like you just have to like try to death by 1,000 paper cuts and like hope they screw up like that. That's the kind of stuff you're talking about, E. Like those Georgia defenses under Kirby, Nick Saban's Alabama defenses, like that's what made those defenses special. It didn't matter what you do. Like we're going to 2-gap up front. We're going to do what you do. We're going to do what we do. Good luck trying to move the football or get shot plays because you can't, because our personnel is just that much better than yours.
Yeah, I should also add Ohio State to that. Last year, they're the number 1 defense in the country. Michigan 2 years ago. Texas may have that, and that's why Sark is on record saying, "Hey, man, for Longhorn fans expecting Archman and the offense to roll up 40 points a game, we may not need that to win football games this year. We need to be efficient and powerful when we need to be powerful. And as you said, Rod, be better in the red zone. Don't turn the football over. Be better on special teams. We'll win a lot of football games, which is why they're number 1 atop the FPI coming into the year." All right, we're going to get some of your questions. We appreciate them coming in on the chat. But first, Rod, tell them about Andy Ludicky, and then we'll get some of these questions. There's a question on baseball, which we'll dive into. And as we said, coming up, hoping to talk to a member of the Texas softball team who's about to play for the national championship starting tomorrow night. Let's get to Andy Ludicky, though.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you to Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like me that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, call Andy and he'll take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. While franchise ownership isn't for everyone, if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, call Andy today at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out to him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football.
No question about it. And speaking of questions, little to run through some of these guys. It says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Any update on what position Ryan Niblett is playing and how his transition to defense is going thus far? Any thoughts here, or we won't know until we get further into the summer?"
It worked some star in the spring.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
He should try to get, I always thought, should he try to get him on the kick return, since Texas doesn't really have, they got DeAndre Moore as their, kickoff returner, but there seems to be some reps at kick returner. I don't know what kind of punt returner. Punt returner is a whole different sport, a whole different world. It's a kickoff return. I don't know if he can do that, but I think I can get some kickoff return. So I don't know exactly. I know he's trying to contribute. Good for him.
Yeah.
He whatever the coach is needing to do, he seems to be a really unselfish teammate and player.
Honestly, because even with the kickoff return, right, until the college game changes the kickoff rule like the NFL has, college kickoff return guys, they're a dying species. They're endangered at this point until the kickoff rule changes. Honestly, what I hope Ryan Niblett does, and maybe moving over to defense will facilitate this. Texas has got to be better covering punts than they were last year. They got to be better in punt coverage. Keaton Crawford and Keelan Robinson, 2 guys that ended up getting drafted. You had probably the 2 best gunners in the country. That's a role Ryan Niblett, because of his speed, and if he ends up, getting the physicality to go with it.
Yeah.
I don't say that lightly. Like, that's a role that can help you win games. Like, you think about guys over the years, Rod, you played with a guy who I still think is the best at Texas I've ever seen do it, which is I've never seen anybody cover a punt the way Michael Ungar could. Like, the dude was like a sixth sense for it. It was crazy. Josh Thompson was a great gunner. Like I said, Keelan Robinson and Keaton Crawford were both great at it. Those guys can help you in the field position game, and that stuff wins you ball games.
Totally agree.
With the defense we just talked about and, the offense being efficient. This one from CB says, what kind of season do you see Justice Terry having? Is there, I think the Texas program, I'll just say to a point where they don't have to have a freshman step in and have an impact, but what type of impact can Justice Terry has? Is he just that good?
I mean, it's tough to place really high expectations on a freshman interior defensive lineman, which basically is what Justice Terry is. I'll put it this way. As deep and as talented as Texas is on the interior defensive line with the depth and then the talent they've got at edge, if Justice Terry comes out of the gate and he's, a double-digit snap guy against Ohio State, that'll give you a really big indicator on what this staff feels like they're going to get out of him as a freshman.
Yeah, it means he's got a high ceiling. All right, but you can lose that trust, right? I mean, we saw that happen with Baby Rhino versus Michigan. He was getting snaps versus Michigan, ended up losing some of that trust from the coaches. But I would say that Sark and his staff, when they've gotten, it seems like they have one of these elite freshmen damn near every year. And it sometimes it's on offense, sometimes it's on defense. Seems like it's been defense lately. Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill was one of those guys. Everything is pointing to. I'm with you. I like Lance Jackson too, but I don't know, where in terms of his contributions as a freshman. I'm not sure what it'll be. Same thing with Justice Terry. I do think going back to the NASCAR package, that's a great way for a freshman to contribute because it is a pretty easy. If you're just looking at the responsibilities of it, it's a predictable pass situation. So it's a pretty easy translation and transition for a young player, right? Colin Simmons, man, nobody's running on third and really long. Every now and then they do. For the most part, they don't. You're in a pass rushing situation. Go use your athleticism and go beat the guy across from you. And it's a lot of isolated one-on-ones the way Texas creates it, and they get really creative and exotic in those packages. So I think that's a way that Justice Terry could contribute. Now, I don't know if he would be one of the edges in there. They have bumped inside the edge, Barron Sorrell. That could be an Ethan Burke. We talked about this earlier. Trey Moore. Colin Simmons going to be there. Anthony Hill's going to be there. Who's that other D tackle? Is Justice Terry's body at that point? I don't know. I don't know if he's there. But I think you got to find a way to get him on the field early. I do think he's one of those guys where you want to expedite their development as a prodigy.
Real quick, because I know we got our guests coming. To Aaron's point, this isn't like it was a decade ago where like you get Malik Jefferson and Connor Williams like, all right, kid, you're all we got. Best of luck. Get out there. You're getting 100 snaps right out of the gate. Like you got enough. There's enough veteran presence in there to kind of insulate him a little bit. And hey, if he takes off and earns more reps, then kind of like we saw with Colin Simmons last year and Anthony Hill the year before, just keep on building and building and building.
All right. As you said, Jeff, in addition to the football summer practice conversations we're having, we also have the Longhorn softball team playing in the National Championship Series for a third consecutive year, the fourth time in 5 years. And look who it is. She is the sophomore outfitter from Dickinson, Texas. Hit the game. He broke the tie the other day on Saturday against Oklahoma with that home run. The outfitter, Caden Henry. Caden, how are you?
I'm good. Very excited to be here.
Congratulations on the 3-0 run and the run so far. Congrats for being back and playing for a championship.
Thank you.
Hey, Kate, let me ask you because we'll get into obviously the team and your guys' accomplishments. But you played the Texas Tech Red Raiders multiple times this year. You guys beat them both times. Can you give us a little mini scouting report on the Texas Tech Red Raiders? You know them pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, playing them 2 times this year and, going against Nyjah Kennedy, who's a very good pitcher. I mean, she's a great kid. She's a competitor, and they have a lot of competitive kids on their team. They use their speed for sure to snag some extra bases. I don't know if y'all seen it, but, NCAA kind of posted, SEC has been everywhere of them stealing home, which is kind of like crazy in the sport of softball. So they're just a team that kind of takes every opportunity to get in their opponents' heads and, score runs and steal those extra bases when they have the chance.
Hey, Caden, take us into your season. You guys were number 1 in the country to start the year. You played to that standard, and then there were some stretches there in April where you lost a series to Tennessee. You got swept by Oklahoma. You got run ruled at the SEC tournament, and you weren't sure. And then the Clemson series was such a back and forth nail biter. But now you guys feel like you're rolling right now. You handled business against Clemson. You got to the tournament. Now you're 3-0 there at Oklahoma City. What's been the mindset? Do you feel like you guys have found your groove?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think coming into this week, it was kind of flushing everything, and knowing that every single loss that we took was a learning opportunity. Getting our butts whooped, cool, whatever. Take it on the chest and take it on the chin. We're back to getting back to work, and we achieved that in regionals. We had a come to Jesus moment together as a team, and just that figuring out what's the little things to get us to where we need to be again. I would say this year has really been like a roller coaster for us, but that adversity has really made us the team that we are right now, and playing like the family that we are and playing with the love that we have for each other for sure.
Tell us about that come to Jesus moment real quick, Caden, while you said it. What was that like when you guys were down to Clemson, and what was the come to Jesus conversation?
I mean, this come to Jesus moment kind of happened like right after we lost to A&M in our SEC tournament, and it was just kind of being more together, not being separated. We did this together. We got to the position that we are. We got to our ranking, and going to the postseason, remembering that we were that number one team once, and we can still be that number one team again. And I think ever since then, it was kind of just, communicating with each other, make sure that we have the energy, make sure that we are, leaning on each other, because it takes the whole entire team. It doesn't take just the 9 on the field. It takes every single person that's in that dugout, every single person that's on our roster to, push for the wins. And we've been doing that, and it's been working out perfectly for us. So,
Caden, kind of piggybacking on that, you guys have been through so much this year. If you think about losing Vivi before the season started, the series at OU, like you said, the A&M loss in the SEC tournament. Every time you guys have hit adversity, what is it about this team? I like the term you use, calling it a family. What is it about you guys that you come up against that adversity, and every time to this point, y'all have been able to clear it?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we're a family. There's a lot of love, but we kind of just learned within the motto this year of taking every opportunity that we have lost as not really just seeing it as a loss and then moving on. It's a learning opportunity. Like, I feel like everything that we've gone through has literally built us up to, prepare for what we went against this week. We had a tough side of our bracket, and it was never a chance where I counted ourselves out. Like, we were in every single game. We were focused. And every opponent that we had faced, we had already seen before prior to this. We had told ourselves kind of like in the middle of conference, getting towards the end, like, okay, we're preparing for postseason now. And we weren't successful when trying to prepare for it. But when we are in the real postseason, like, we have been in our groove. We have been successful. We have been together. And it's just kind of led us to, where we are now, right now, and competing for our second national championship and second year in a row, and, 3 times in the last 4 years.
Hey, and Caden, a big part of that is Coach White. He's done a great job. Can you give me a funny Coach White story that won't get you in trouble?
Let me see. I mean, Coach White, me and him, we always I just joke with him all the time. Like, I call him Papa White, and he's like, he just laughs, or like, he's just such a competitor. So, he had his little surgery, and he's getting back into the groove of pitching and stuff. But we're like, man, like, we tell like our incomers and our freshmen and stuff, we're like, Papa White, he was okay today, but you don't know Michael White when he was in his prime. Like, he's different.
Well, Caden Henry is with us. Obviously, they will play for the national championship starting tomorrow night against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And I was told by someone that Coach White was when he was a fast pitch softball player out of New Zealand, he was one of the best in the world. He was salty as a pitcher. Does he ever tell you guys about that?
He never really brags on himself too much, but sometimes when we have like our holiday parties before we go off for Christmas break, like, we go to his house, and he has his trophies, he has his rings, and we're like, man, like, you was a dog for real. But I mean, we even all know, because even last year, like, sometimes he would pitch to us, and we're like, man, you don't know what it is until you go against him, and you see how dirty his pitches are. You see how competitive he is still, even at his age. Like, he's just crazy. Like, even last year, like, I called a home run. Like, I went against him my first time ever my freshman year, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit a home run off of you. And he was like, no, you're not. And then I hit one, and I was like, ha ha, and he was mad. That was the first home run I ever gave up. He ever gave up to me. But he's just a good pitcher. He is great a pitcher back then and even now.
Tegan Kavan said she learned a lot from him to developing her pitching style. Talk about that, because for people that don't know, Tegan lost her grandmother who over the weekend ahead of that unbelievable game with Oklahoma on Saturday. And as you talked about in the post game, you knew her very well, her grandmother. You lived with Tegan. There was something special about that game for the emotional. You talk about the family. Tegan took the ball, even though that was a really tough day for her, and you hit the home run that broke the tie. And you said you were in tears, kind of rounding the bases, not to get you back into that moment. But then that was special for you guys to finally beat Oklahoma under those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, Tegan, to go through what she had to go through that day, and to tell us, that morning about the news, and even just say like, hey, like, I got y'all, I'm okay. And we just had to remind her, like, Tegan, it's okay if you're not okay. At the end of the day, like, we're still your family, we're still your team, and we're going to support you no matter what, because that's what matters more than anything at this situation. And she took that game with a lot of pride, and we all played for her that day, and we played for Miney, and we played for her family, because like I said, like, we're a big family. And so hearing that news for me, it was very heartbreaking. I was very sad about it, but I mean, I played that game with all my heart. I played it as if that was my own grandmother, and I just played it for her because I knew that's what Miney would want for us, is to take this all, and she would love to see Tegan winning it as well. So I'm happy that she has the best seat in the house, and I'm happy that Tegan could come through the way that she did. But she's a dog too, like, mentally and physically. She's just a strong person, and I love her so much.
It's great stuff. Hey, Kate, I read that you actually were described, have been described as a ballpark baby because you spent a lot of your youth at the ballpark because your mom was a baller.
Yeah.
Right? How much did you learn from mom? And does mom, did she still, talk about how great she was? Did you remember how great mom was? Do you get a chance to watch any old games of mom, anything like that?
I don't get to watch any games of my mom. She was actually at Eastern New Mexico for a little bit, where she actually competed in the World Series there for Division II at the time. And then she transferred to ACU. And in the middle of her career, she ended up having me. So I usually go back and I try to, like, when I play these games, I'm so grateful that I had this opportunity and stuff, and I can give back to her because she didn't get to finish her college career. So I kind of just played through her a lot. But yeah, being a ballpark baby it's completely true. Like, I was always at the park with her. When she played slow pitch, when my stepdad played slow pitch, I would just be running around all the time. Just with her. So I learned a lot of just being competitive, just the sacrifices and the competitiveness that it takes to just be a successful player.
Jaden, thanks so much. Best of luck. Everybody be watching here. Longhorn Nation will be behind you from here. The big crowd there at Oklahoma City. Texas Tech. It's all Texas. Go get them.
Yes, 7 p.m. Hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.
Hug 'em.
Thanks, Caden.
Thank you, Caden. All right, thank you to Blake too and the crew.
Awesome.
That's a great story, Rod. I mean, you played on a lot of teams, man. When you have a come to Jesus moment as a team, because things aren't, you've number one, and all of a sudden you're tumbling a little bit, and you're trying to get things back on track. Then you deal with what they did, and finally to beat Oklahoma, to get over that hump. That's something special right there.
Yeah, I mean, I played at a time when Oklahoma was the standard to beat, and also the rival, right? Yeah, they not only the rival, but they're also the standard of the sport at the time. So I know what that means for the ladies. It's been and for Coach White too. I mean, he's been kind of in the shadow of that Oklahoma program and what that dynastic run they've been on. And for the ladies to get over the hump, they got to finish the mission. Can't let Texas Tech stand in the way. Got to finish the mission, ladies. Because I'm proud of them. And they know they are. I mean, they're a better team than Texas Tech, but it's not about that. It's about who's playing their best ball right now.
Hey, you mentioned thanks to Blake and some others. I want to shout out real quick Chris Brown, the sports information director for Texas softball. Chris has been great getting us guests this year and making Coach White available, and John Bianco's crew over there.
Hey,
they got some great folks over there. Josh White in baseball just wrapped up his first year, so Scotty McConnell in basketball has been there. If you were there while Rod B was on campus, you've been there for a minute. So but shout out the sports information department. As good as Texas is across the board in athletics right now, there's a lot of long hours being logged over at Belmont, or in I guess not even Belmont anymore. I guess they're in the North End Zone complex. Either way, shout out to sports information department.
No question. They're about to get busier. They're about to get busier with the arch years, and because Texas is bringing in bigger stars and celebrities now for their players, right? Yeah. And these players are great players, and they become stars of their college sports. And and winning championships. Oh, they're working hard over there, man.
Yeah, the more you win, the more you got to tell everybody about and do the PR, no question about it. And they do a great job helping all of us, whether it's a radio show or this show or live streams. We appreciate them, no question about it. Hey, let me mention Mark Saunders, our favorite insurance agent. He is a lifetime Longhorn. He's a Texas alum. In 35 years, he's made sure all Longhorns, and certainly you, have been in good hands with Allstate, the only insurance agent you will need. As we always say here on the Tuesday live stream, if you put your head in the pillow tonight and you think, man, do I have everything covered? Am I getting the best deal and best rates right now? That's my home, my cars, any boats or toys you have, motorcycles, RVs, ATVs, second homes. Make sure you've got it all covered. We've had a lot of storms, and those aren't getting better. The storms are getting worse. Make sure you're locked in. Get someone local to the Austin, Round Rock, Travis, and Williamson County area. Give Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office a call tomorrow, 512-218-8571. That's 512-218-8571. And again, ask yourself as you go to sleep tonight, thinking about all these Longhorns in a College World Series in softball, are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you absolutely will be with the Texas alum Mark Saunders and his team. Thank you to Caden Henry. A lot of fun right there talking championship. And, it is fair to say the Texas women's program, that side of it is dominating right now. They are great in everything. And I think it's tremendous that it feels like the men are coming, right? Football's getting there. We're talking about number one in the country, maybe in the preseason. I know, Rod, you just talked to Sean Miller, the new basketball coach. He's got a vision for the basketball program. Jim Schlossnagel in the first year, had them as a SEC champion, but still has work to do as far as building the depth of the roster and more arms. But, man, props to the Texas women and the athletic department there. They are elite across the board, from the softball team we're talking about. Volleyball is the national, champion contender every year. Vic Schaefer in basketball, rowing, heck, it's across the board. It's everywhere. Ladies are not. It's a woman's world right now.
I need to give another shout out. The baseball team is trying to rally against UTSA in that elimination game on Sunday night, and I noticed some stirring along the first base side, and I'm like, somebody's climbing up on the dugout. Jarrett Elliott got up on the Texas dugout.
I saw
getting the crowd pumped up. So that's how Rod, you've got a good athletic department where people are backing people up. When the volleyball coach is on top of the dugout in an elimination game in a regional, trying to get the crowd pumped up for the baseball program.
Yeah. No, that's also something that I don't know if they had that type of support internally with each other when I was there, because the players go to each other's games now too more than they did when I played. So that's also something I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's a more integrated world now on social media and whatnot. But you're right. They are, and I think you give shout outs. Chris Del Conte's done a heck of a job with he and his staff hiring the right coaches and putting dynamic people and dynamic leaders in control who recruit really good players across the board. It's really fun to watch and cover for sure here on the On Texas Football Channel.
I want to throw a 15-yard penalty flag on the usher who made Jarrett get off the dugout. Jarrett Elliott survived Steve Patterson years and won championships before and after. So, as far as I'm concerned, Jarrett Elliott, if he wants to do cartwheels on top of the dugout, he's well within his rights. You survived the Steve Patterson regime.
When there was about a coach's mutiny, they're about to walk off the job. It was so bad. Hey, let me ask you guys some questions, because they're coming in and we appreciate them, and we appreciate Caden Henry. But the questions are great ones, actually. They all are, and we appreciate them. This says, Jeff, any early baseball portal updates? I can say Ace Whitehead did enter the portal this afternoon. Of course, the left-hander who missed all of this year with injury, he announced he's from Leander, Texas. Was such a critical junkyard dog in the last year of the David Pierce run, but missed all of this year with the injury and the health issue. He is going to hit the portal. And so any early baseball portal, I expect them to be very aggressive in the portal as they were a year ago. Yeah.
Ace Whitehead was a great high school quarterback at Lampasas, did some great things.
Lampasas, I'm sorry.
Came to Texas is he going to be an outfielder? Is he going to pitch? Man, he literally gave his body. He gave everything to Texas last year, because he ended up pitching through thoracic outlet syndrome at the end of the year. And as an Astros fan, that ended J.R. Richards' career.
It did.
That's a serious deal. Yeah, ended up taking a redshirt year, so I hope he shines wherever he goes. He's had a couple freshmen into the portal. Chance Covert, Samuel Richardson, Matt Scott have hit the portal. I think Donovan Jordan's hit the portal also. So none of those guys were on a postseason roster, so not a surprise in college baseball. But yeah, they're going to be aggressive. I think, and two, part of the deal with Boogie moving on, Schloss even said this, they got the triple digits and hit batters again this year as a pitching staff. They want to recruit hard throwing power pitchers that can really pound the strike zone. And as much as you appreciate Boogie, that's not what he brings to the table. So I think that's where you're going to see Texas go, not just with their recruits, but with their portal additions, is get some of those guys. Look, everybody's seen enough SEC baseball this year. You look at some of those bullpens, whether it's Auburn or Tennessee or LSU. I mean, you got multiple guys on the staff that can hit triple digits on the radar gun. You want to survive in the SEC, you better have some live arms, and Schloss and Max Winter know they've got to go get them. I would not be surprised if within the next 24, 48 hours you hear about Texas maybe getting some portal visitors on campus. Like they know they need some pitching help. Middle infield, I think, is an area where they know they really, especially with Jalen Flores getting ready to move on and Ethan Mendoza being banged up this year, they've got to get some middle infield help. So, yeah, you're going to see them be really aggressive in the portal.
Very good. Also, from the question side, and we appreciate you guys leading the conversation here in the month of June, anytime really, but this says, who do you guys see as the biggest sleeper on offense? We talked a lot about the Texas defense tonight. Who do you think is the biggest sleeper player on the offensive side of the ball, Jeff and Rod?
I tell you who it needs to be. So as far as a guy we're not talking much about right now, or that probably, especially nationally, they're not talking about, I think it needs to be Cole Hudson, because you can say what you want about Jake Majors. That guy started more games than anybody that ever put a strapped on a helmet at the University of Texas. And there was really that's a luxury when you got an experienced veteran center. That's a common presence for you on offense. And Cole Hudson's played. He's not, a newcomer from that standpoint, but now becoming the center. A good center, man, it's one of those deals you don't realize how good you have it until that guy's not there anymore. And then if the level of play starts to backtrack a little bit, suddenly you appreciate that guy a lot more. So I think it needs to be right. I'm not saying Cole Hudson's got to go be an All-American, but that's a pretty high standard for me to live up to, is Cole Hudson getting in that center spot for Jake Majors.
No, that's
Rob, before you answer that, I want you to talk about, from the football theorist side, 4 new offensive linemen, but with a new quarterback and a new center, that's the as you call it, the brain center of your offense, right? Mm-hmm. How important is that? I mean, I know they've worked together, and Arch and Cole Hudson have worked together, but that's important to the goals and the lofty expectations this team has. Those two guys are very important to the big picture.
Oh yeah, and they haven't gotten a chance to work much, work together much, and they don't have much experience together, very much continuity. That's why if I was Ohio State, I would come after them early on, and I'd probably come after them with some twists and some stunts up front, and some simulated pressures to see if a young Arch Manning can handle potentially having to change protection. Or if that center, that brand new center, has to, have the burden of having to change protection or potentially identify a lot of exotic pressure packages, and just see if they can handle it early on. If they can handle it, hey, you know what? I'll change course and do something else. But early on, Ohio State, considering the athletes they have and the inexperience Texas has at quarterback and now at center, I mean, it's not a lot of inexperience, because those guys have gotten reps and their starts under Arch's belt, but not against the caliber opponent that, they're going to face in Ohio State. So I think early on, you probably will get at least that team. I know after that, no team, Sam Houston, they won't be able to challenge Texas in that regard, but I think Ohio State will. So to that point.
Well, and I would say the other way to the Texas defense, Ohio State's replacing most of their offensive line too. So Texas can go in with the same exact game plan, and they're going to have a new quarterback. So I think that's kind of what's going to be one of those stories. It's such a huge matchup of brands, and the rematch of the Cotton Bowl could be 1 versus 2, but at the same time, both offensive lines are kind of in rebuild mode both defenses are very talented, obviously. So yeah, there could be some. Let's throw a flurry at them early and see how they handle it. Rod, who's your sleeper on offense?
Yeah, it's hard to have a sleeper because I think I talk about these guys a lot. So I feel like, we got everybody, trending in the right direction, or at least everybody and making an impact, right? So maybe I'll go Jordan Washington, since we're talking a lot about Jack injuries and what he's going to do. I'll go with the other tight end. I think for the first time, maybe you'll have the secondary tight end also have, because Jack Henry's going to be the primary tight end in the passing game, but maybe the secondary tight end will have more of an impact in the passing game, more than what Juan Davis did last year, more than what Gunnar Helm did 2 years ago when he was a secondary tight end under, or after, I should say, JT Sanders. So I think that will probably be my sleeper for somebody to step up.
There you go.
James Simon would be a good pick, I think. It's easy to pick a newcomer as a sleeper, but we heard so many really good things about that kid coming out of spring ball. And I've said it 1,000 times, man, running back is the one position on offense where if a newcomer is going to make an impact, it's probably going to be at running back. So
it's not bad.
I know there's a lot of guys in front of him. Keep an eye on James Simon.
I'm going to pick, speaking of newcomers, I'm going to pick Emmett Mosley, the receiver from Stanford. I'm just going with track record. Last 2 years, A.D. Mitchell from Georgia, Matthew Golden from Houston, and then Chris Jackson's done a real good job, and Sark of Brandon Harris identifying a really talented wide receiver that wasn't the guy we were talking about going into the year, but becomes an integral part. Obviously, 2 years ago, A.D. Mitchell with Xavier Worthy. So I'm going to say Emmett Mosley, who played a lot of football at Stanford last year without a great offense. I'm going to take him as my sleeper on the offensive side of the ball. And those guys will all show up now, or they have shown up for the summer, those portal additions through the spring portal. And how many recruits that weren't here early, Jeff? Is it 2 or 3? Is that the total number? Nick Townsend and a couple other guys that weren't here for spring practice?
Yeah, Nick Townsend and the Coleman twins. I think I may be missing somebody else, but I think that was it. Yeah, it wasn't. Everybody got here for spring ball. So,
yeah, they did. All right, let us tell you about Advanced Pain Care, because these are a couple of Longhorn legends who will tell you about pain. I am guilty at times of putting off pain. I get little aches and pains, and I just put it off. It gets worse, and they're like, man, wish I'd have gone earlier. That's all Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Here's my sleeper as Arch Manning. That's a good sleeper. That's a good sleeper. No one's going to talk about him at all between now and the start of the football season.
Right?
Sure. Hey, here's one for you, Rod. Go ahead, because we talked earlier. Our first question was about the NASCAR package, and somebody, MJF, has asked, do you see a scenario where we have Hill, LaFau, Spence, Smith, Simmons, and more all on the field at one time, the Hornets' Nest package? I like it.
That'd be a tough combination, just because if they run like a 3-4, sometimes I've seen that, and then they could put your edges would be Simmons and Moore on that, like the overhangs, I should say, not the edge, the overhangs in the 3-4, kind of your outside linebackers there. And they could do that. So guys are kind of rushing from the edge if they need to, or they can drop. And of course, Hill, and then maybe LaFau. So maybe in the 3-4, you'd get some of those guys. But at this point, nah, because they don't play enough teams to throw out what they call 40 personnel, which is only 4 DBs on the field. They're going to play nickel 65, 70% of the time, and then they're going to play dime. Now, NASCAR dime, you'll probably get that. Last year, it was your NASCAR package overall, you were in it a little under 17% of the time, your NASCAR package. And when you played Michigan, you're at that 3D tackle package. They used that a couple of times against really run-heavy teams. But for the most part, yeah, I don't know if you'll get that combination on the field. I do think you'll get more NASCAR nickel this year, which would get you Simmons, Moore, Hill, Spence, or Smith. I don't know if you get both of those guys on the field for the NASCAR package. To be in NASCAR, you got to either specialize in coverage or pass rush. And if you ain't one of them, then you don't need to be in that package, pretty much.
There you go. The football theorist delivering. Let's one more time talk about Andy Ludicky, Rod, and we've got another question coming in about the rival across the Red River to the north that we will get into, and I'll pose it as a question that I have for you guys. But let's tell them about Andy Ludicky one more time.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Andy Ludicky, for sponsoring our Tuesday live stream. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in different businesses. Well, Andy can help you because he can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, reach out to Andy and his team. They'll take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. They understand franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, just reach out to Andy today at andy@myperfectfranchise.net, or you can call him at 404-973-9901. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream.
Hey, Rod, we have a super chat question just for you, my friend. So go ahead and read that.
Thanks, Taylor, for the super chat. Rod, did you ever get hit so hard in college where you thought, I'm good, I'm gonna do something else? No, I stayed away from real heavy contact. Like, I wasn't a guy trying to deliver the knockout blows. That wasn't where I got my thrill in football. I made sound tackles. I think I made like 2 big hits in my entire career, like real, where I decleated a guy. You know what I mean? Like that, I got 2 of those in my entire college career. I think one of them actually came in an LSU game. I kind of remember that, but I only got a few of those in my college career. I didn't get a lot of them. I think I got one on a quarterback actually on a blitz, like my freshman year, maybe.
You got Cliff Kingsbury, right?
Yeah, I got Cliffy on one of those too. So yeah, every now and then I got it, but no, that was not what I wanted to do. So I stayed away from it. I played offense in high school. I was too fast for people to hit me, get a clean shot at me. And by the time I got to college, as a corner, you can stay away from it. If you're smart enough, you can stay away from big collisions in your college career, even in your NFL career. They're great, all-time great DBs who said out loud, like, I'm not going to tackle that guy. I wasn't one of those guys. I like to tackle. I didn't like to make big hits, though, because you feel those too. Yeah, exactly. I never went what Vasher did. Yeah, I get, because you can hurt. I could knock myself out trying to knock somebody out. Like, I'm good. I'm 5'9", 180 pounds. Like, it will take every bit of me to knock some dude out and deliver a haymaker. I didn't want to risk taking myself out. So, no.
Well, Rod, you're who I think of when I see Derrick Henry break the line in the NFL. Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, man. Nightmare fuel. Nightmare fuel is what that is right there, brother. Nightmare.
When he comes on the street or something and he's past the linebackers, I was like, oh, man, Rod ain't getting up in that.
Oh, I'm getting up in that, but I'm hitting them. I'm going hard at them ankles, everything, shins, everything, knees and below. I don't even want to hit his thighs. Thighs hurt.
Yeah, Bull Reese believed in you, Rod, that you were the guy against Nebraska and K-State. You're going to get in there and take on the fullbacks and feather the option.
I know. I was in the wrong NFL. I was in the NFL on like kickoffs before they outlawed certain things, before they got rid of, all of the. Yeah, dude, they would have. Oh man, my job would be to go and to blow up the wedge. And now they obviously don't have wedges because they know that was just a concussion waiting to happen. Yeah, my job was to go blow it up. And if you didn't, you got cut. It was just that simple.
You think like when we're all old and decrepit, Rod, like people will look back at that era of football, like not only did they have a wedge, but somebody was designed to be the wedge buster. Can you believe how crazy these Neanderthals were playing football?
Why was I the wedge buster? They thought because you're faster, you had to gather more speed and you can blow up the wedge. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You need somebody bigger to help blow up that wedge, big and fast, not small and fast. Those were old linemen, guys. They were old linemen. Remember, they used to hook arms.
Yeah,
I remember this. They would hook arms. That was their first thing, and then they would start to spread out. So they didn't want too much space in between them. And my job was to blow up that wedge and like create a void and a space. against 300-pound humans. And yeah, so that was probably the closest I came to knocking myself out a couple of times.
If I'm gonna take a physics lesson, it ain't gonna be from an NFL special teams coach. So,
Yeah.
They would never. Yeah, they're football coaches. All right, let me do one more question, and we appreciate it. It's OU, and I want to pose it this way. This is, I think Jack asked this question about the Oklahoma Sooners. They are saying their wide receivers are healthy and a proven quarterback. What do y'all think? And I know I can already see Jeff because he's not a believer, but we have this conversation each Tuesday. But I'll pose it this way and this way because I think it's interesting because I heard Greg McElroy the other day. We were talking about him, but he does a radio show with Cole Kubelik from ESPN every morning. And Cole went to Auburn. And Greg McElroy apparently said on his show that he has Auburn as a sleeper team. He thinks Auburn can cut down on the turnovers with Jackson Arnold and be a team that can surprise people and play into the top end of the SEC this year if things break. But I see Auburn and Oklahoma the same way. Which one would you think? Which one would you be less surprised to see make a run at the top of the SEC, Auburn or Oklahoma this year?
I think Auburn's more talented, but
yeah.
I don't. That doesn't, that and $5 will get you a cup of coffee. Like I don't. That doesn't do anything. Auburn was really talented last year. I mean, it's not a stretch to say Jackson Arnold can cut down on the turn. Like Peyton Thorne was a turnover machine. There were sometimes his turnovers were the reason Auburn lost games. Like if it wasn't for Peyton Thorne, Auburn beats Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's not bowl eligible. If he just doesn't decide to, be the best player on OU side of the field in the fourth quarter, I'm serious. Like it's so, I don't know. I don't have faith in either of them.
Yeah. Well, and they're similar in that they need better quarterback play. They need better offense and fewer turnovers. And then, DJ Durkin runs the Auburn defense. Hugh Freeze is under fire right now, but they're talented. And who knows? I mean, they're both kind of in the same spot where there's talent there, but there's so many question marks. And is there going to be good coaching?
They're really freaking talented.
Auburn last year was top. If you look at explosive play rate on offense, they were top 10 in the country. Actually, they were their own worst enemy in terms of turning the ball over, and they would just implode at the wrong times. Oklahoma's got a quarterback. I said I don't know if John Mateer's skill set will translate because I'm not sure about Oklahoma's wide receivers. If they're healthy, that's great, but I'm not sure about how talented overall that receiving core is and the O-line. But John Mateer, the film says he can play.
Yeah.
Right? The film says he can play. And they're bringing the same offense with him and the same OC. Like I said, if it doesn't translate, it wouldn't shock me. But if he comes in, it wouldn't shock me. Well, if that's a dude, if he's just out there dealing. He's a gamer too. Like he can run, he can throw.
No, he is. He's a little Baker Mayfield in him. The way he plays with that intensity, and I think you're right about that. He was fun to watch at Washington State. That's where Cam Ward all the way to Miami. You know what I mean? They do pretty good with quarterbacks. No question.
Yeah, I guess if I had to pick one, I would probably say Auburn because I think Jackson Arnold is at the very least competent. We'll see if the change of scenery kind of rejuvenates him. And Auburn's, man, I think Paul mentioned it in the chat too. Like Cam Coleman, they had that really talented group of freshman receivers last year. They got Singleton from Georgia Tech out of the portal. So I mean, they've got enough talent to go win 8 or 9 games, even playing an SEC schedule. But between the two, the only thing that I feel confident in between Auburn and Oklahoma is Brent Venables is going to field at least a solid defense. And credit to him because the first year they were terrible, but no, he wanted to bring in his system and install it, and it was going to pay off over time. And I think they're pretty good up front. I think defensively they're going to be fine. But Oklahoma's defense, of all the things with either of those teams, is the only thing I feel like I can bank on that being good enough to improve on the win total from last year.
Yeah, well, and OU's got that early tilt with Michigan, which will be huge, and Norman, that's week 2. Auburn starts the year with Baylor on a Friday night in Waco. That same Labor Day weekend, they play at Baylor on a Friday night. Dave Aranda's team was good at the end of last year, so that's a big Big 12 SEC matchup. And, of course, they'll play the Jackson Arnold Bowl back in Norman. Mm-hmm. I think it's in September. It's one of the earliest games for both teams in SEC play. All right, guys, good stuff tonight. Thank you to Caden Henry from the Texas softball team. What a fun conversation that was. Good luck to the Longhorns, and gosh, go win a national title. Bring it home. You got to deal with Najee Kennedy from Texas Tech, but hey, it's not Oklahoma, at least, right? That you're facing on the other side.
Yeah,
this
right.
team like it's found its way, and obviously by next week we'll know if they won the national championship on our Tuesday night. Coffee and football tomorrow morning. Jeff, you'll be keeping everybody posted on the big recruiting, and you and CJ and Jerry on the big visit weekend, and obviously they're getting back doing the summer workouts. It'll be a lot of fun. 88 days, as we said, to the start of the college football season. So appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks, E. Hook 'em.
Thanks, Matthew, behind the scenes also.